Imbibers, welcome back to today's session. We are here with the another topic of the plant kingdom. So in the previous lecture of the 11th standard of the plants, we have discussed about the introduction towards the plant kingdom. We have seen a lot of people have given their sense towards the different types of classification, and yet we know that plant kingdom is divided into on the basis of the cryptograms and the phanerograms, the plants which have seeds and the plants which do not have seeds. So the very first topic or the very first part of the plant kingdom is the algae. You know, the algae are the thallophytes, the basic plants which are not divided into root, stem and leaves, and today we are going to discuss the different classes of the algae existing, their features, how do they reproduce, and what are their different pigmentations and their functions. Okay, so before we start, let me introduce you to myself again. I am Anam Khan. I'll be your botany expert for the session 2023 and 2024. We're going to make your examination easy, and I'm going to discuss all the things related to the plants. Of course, like we have already discussed the biological classification in detail, and have we also covered the living world. Here we are with the another important, extremely important topic of your syllabus, which is the algae. So please make sure that you listen to this class very carefully, and what you have to do, you always have to come to the Embibe app, register for the class so that you could attempt the pre and the post class activities. Before coming to the session, you can always attempt the pre-class activity, which will help you to know that what is going to be taught in the class, and after the session is over, you can attempt the questions related to it, which have been already covered in that session. So it is an amazing app. Please do join us on the Embibe app. Okay, register yourself for the class and explore it. It has everything which is going to help in the learning process, making the learning process easier as much as possible. Okay, so let's start our today's session. Let's start the characteristics. Let's start the introduction towards the algae. Okay, so children, talking about the algae, today we have the chapter which to be covered in the plant kingdom would be, the topics are the algae. We're going to discuss about the division bryophytes also. We're going to discuss about the pteridophytes also. Hi Srinath, I hope you are doing really well. Okay, we're going to discuss about the pteridophytes also, the gymnosperms, angiosperms, and of course the life cycles of the all particular plant kingdom. I would say all characters or life cycle of all the parts of the plant kingdom. Okay, so children, talking about today's session, the concept today would be covered, would be related to the algae. And what we're going to cover? We're going to cover all the topics one by one. Today we're going to discuss about what is algae, how they are vegetatively reproducing, how they are asexually reproducing, how they are sexually reproducing, their economic importance, and of course the classification of the algae. Yes, the classification is the most important part, because you know each and every classified algae has their own importance, has their own particular characteristics, and has their own particular role in the nature. Okay, we are going to discuss about the photosynthetic pigments, we are going to discuss about the stored food, chlorophyce, phaeophyce, and of course the rhodophyce, which has been classified on the basis of the kind of a pigments they have. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's start our today's session talking about the algae. So children, as you know that whenever you walk by through the ponds or lakes, you see this a green color kind of a thing which has been covering the whole layer of those river bodies, or of course I would say the fresh water bodies. They were covered with this green layer. So what do you think this green layer is? Okay, some kind of what? Some kind of a showcase activity or some kind of a beauty it is adding to. Children, if you know that algae form cells and they can lie dormant for many years. Yes, they can be there for several years, accumulating dead and basically spreading to the whole surface of that water body. Yes, it is that kind of thing. They can basically stay dormant and cover the surface area of the freshwater bodies. Talking more about the algae, children, the algae basic major characteristics of an algae, children, if you know, we're going to discuss each and every one of them. So it is a thyloid, means you know what we got plant. What is plant? If I have to see a plant, I would definitely look forward to what? Root, stem, leaves, flowers. These are the things I'll definitely look forward in a plant. But that is not in the case of algae. Algae are, the plant body is completely like a thallus structure. It is not differentiated between the roots and leaves. Okay, it has a thallus like a structure. They are completely photosynthetic and autotrophic. Yes, they do have pigments in them. The nature of the plant kingdom, of course, when the Whitaker classified the 5 kingdom of classification, the organisms which are part of the plant kingdom are photosynthetic organism primarily. Okay, they do have pigment and they do show autotrophic nutrition. And how they are showing autotrophic nutrition? Because they have certain pigments which can easily trap the sunlight and they can prepare their own food. Okay, talking about the cellular structure, the body of the algae, that could be the unicellular, made up of single cells, and they could be multicellular organisms. They can be made up of one cell and they could have a multicellular body. Totally depends. Next, the habitat. If you have to find an algae, they are majorly were found in the moist and the aquatic places. Okay, they are majorly found in the moist, which is have moisture, and of course the aquatic places. Okay, they are completely free living as well as the symbionts. How symbionts? The very famous example, you know, the lichens. Lichens is a complete association between the algae and the fungi. So they might be free living, living solitary, okay, doing their whole reproduction, reproducing, having their own importance, yet they can live in the association also. So one of the famous example is of the lichens, where they live in the association with the fungi. Okay, yes, they occur in the association with fungi and other animals also. Yes, these are the basic characteristics. We are still not discussing about any particular type of algae. These are the basic characteristics of an algae which every algae will show. Okay, the reproduction, the kind of a reproduction existing in the algae, it could be asexual and sexual both. Okay, you know, when a particular organism is reproducing asexually, it has to be through the spore formation, and when a particular organism is reproducing through sexually, they are having gametes. Simple. Okay, they have this gametic fusion, they have gametes and which fuse to form a zygote, embryo and the whole forward structures. Okay, so children, what is a type of a gamete fusion? A different type of a gamete fusion exists, because we are going to discuss it today only. The isogametic, anisogametic and of course the oogametic. It could be, I can also call it as isogamous, oogamous and of course the anisogamous. And the famous example of the algae are this Ulothrix, which is a filamentous algae. There is a Spirogyra, which is also known as filamentous algae, and there is a Volvox, which is also known as colonial algae. So these are the few examples of the algae. And see, these are the few characteristics of the algae. Is it clear? Anything should be repeated again, children? Is this part clear about the algae, the characteristics of the algae? Yes or no? Yes? The Ulothrix, Spirogyra and of course the Volvox. Okay, moving forward with the more explanation about the type of algae, next we have the classification. You know, the algae is being classified into 3 main classes. It has 3 main classes and each class has their own importance and own characteristics. So the very first class of the algae is of course the Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae. Children, the major classic division between all the classes of the algae is of the pigment which is present in them and which kind of a stored food they have. So we are going to thoroughly go through each and every type of algae and see what kind of characteristics each and every them of possessing. Okay, so talking about the very first, which is the Chlorophyceae, let's click the button to know about the Chlorophyceae. So chlorophyll, the alternative name you can also call it as that green algae. Okay, so as of course chlorophyll, green algae, of course the pigment could be majorly the green pigments. Of course, talking about this chlorophyll, children, we have, they are the body, the structure of the plant, it is unicellular, could be colonial and could be filamentous. Just in the previous slide I have shown you how the colonial look like, how the filamentous algae look like. Okay, so chlorophyll have a characteristics of both. They possess the cellular structure of both colonial as well as the what? Unicellular. Okay, and could be filamentous also. The kind of a pigment, see children, there are two things which you always have to remember when you talk about the algae. First, what kind of a pigment do they have? The kind of a cell wall, kind of a substance in the cell wall is available. Okay, and of course the stored food. These three things are, of course, should be always on your tip of your tongue, because if ever you wanted to give the NEET examination, children, this is going to help you a lot. The plant kingdom is so vast that it cannot be basically taught in the whole your 11th standard, because it is so vast. Okay, so keeping it precise for your 11th examination. Okay, so children, we're going to stick to that only, but still we are actually exceeding that also. But with respect to your NEET examination, you have to go through more, but the major part of the algae you would have to remember is the stored food, the pigment and the cell wall substances. Yes, of course, other things are important, but I would definitely want you to at least just grasp about these two things, 2 to 3 things. So, the next pigment, of course, the pigment of the chlorophyll is, they are discoid, plate-like, reticulate, cup-shaped, spiral, ribbon-shaped in members of chlorophyll. Can you see these type of structures exist in the algae? They can be plate-like, reticulate, cup-shaped, spiral, ribbon-shaped are the members of chlorophyll. And what kind of a pigment they basically possess? The pigments are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. These two types of pigment are existing in the chlorophyll. Next, talking about the storage bodies, which are the pyrenoids. What are storage bodies? Something which stores your food. So in algae there are storage bodies. Then in the chlorophyll, the storage bodies are pyrenoid structures. They store protein and starch, and they also store food in the form of oil droplets. Yes, so the storage bodies in the chlorophyll is the pyrenoids structures and of course the oil droplets. Cell wall. The cell wall of the chlorophyll is made up of cellulose and outer layer is made up of pectose. So, the cell wall is a double layer kind of a structure in which the inner layer is made up of cellulose while the outer layer is made up of pectose. Clear? There are two type of layers present in the chlorophyll, outer cellulose, inner pectose. Always remember. Okay. The method of reproduction in the chlorophyll is that they can be reproduced through vegetative form, vegetative, fragmentation and of course the spore formation. Asexual is through the zoospore formation and sexual through the gametic fusion. And the examples of chlorophyll are the chlamydomonas, volvox, Leucothrix, Spirogera and Cara. These are the examples of the chlorophyll. What you have to remember? You have to remember one thing. They possess pigment called chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B. The cell wall is made up of two layers. The inner layer is made up of cellulose. The outer layer is made up of pectose. The storage body, the food storage body are pyrenoids which store proteins and starch, and they also store food in the form of oil droplets. Please remember these points. This is going to help you in the future also or now also. Always remember especially these 3 points of the particular classes of the algae. Clear? So, we have covered the one class of the algae, which is the chlorophyll. Which are left? 2 are left. Going back, let's see. Let's go back. As we go back, we're going to explore the next, which is the Phaeophyce. Let's explore the Phaeophyce. Talking about the Phaeophyce, the characteristics of the Phaeophyce. The very first thing I'm going to talk about the Phaeophyce is the habitat. Where do they are being found? They are found in the marine habitat. Marine, you know, the salt water. Yes, the oceans and the seas which have khara pani. Yes, marine water. The plant body, the structure of the algae belonging to the Phaeophyce is branched and made up of filament. As you can see this also, they are being branched kind of a structure. And children, the body is further divided into holdfast, fronds and stipe. They are divided into holdfast. What is a holdfast? The part which is attached to the substratum. I cannot say this is as a root, okay, but somewhere it is. I'm not saying it is a root, I'm not saying it is like a root, but you can just for your remembrance can basically remember this, that the holdfast is the part which is holding it and it is attaching it to the substratum. What is substratum? The surface there where it is basically attached. So the holdfast is the part to which it is attaching to the substratum. The next is the fronds. These are leaf-like structures. Yes, just like leaves, but we know that the algae are not divided into root, stem and leaves. So we can say them, they have leaf-like structure which are called fronds. And the last, they have stipe. What is stipe? Stem-like structure you can say, but since algae is a thallus structure, these are the stalk-like structure. So the plant body, basically the body of the algae of the Phaeophyce is divided into, is having the body parts known as holdfast, fronds and stipes. Yes, next come the most important point, that they have the kind of a pigment. The kind of a pigment present in the algae is the chlorophyll AC, carotenoids, xanthophylls and fucoxanthin. Please children, please do remember this. Talking about the photosynthetic pigments, they have carotenoid, xanthophylls and fucoxanthin. Okay, the stored food inside the Phaeophyce is the laminarian starch and of course the mannitol. This is a kind of a stored food they have inside them. Next, talking about the cell wall or the kind of a cell wall they have a cell wall called gelatinous coating of algin. Yes, the gelatinous coating of the algin, the cell wall constitute of a coating or a coating, what you called it is of algin coating. Okay, the children, they have a cellulosic cell wall, no doubt, which have a coating of what? Algin. Clear? Cellulose and there is a coating of algin. How do they reproduce? Children, they again reproduce through the fragmentation. They can also reproduce asexually by biflagellate zoospore. Biflagellate means it has the zoospore will have two flagella. And sexually reproducing through isogamous, oogamous and anisogamous. So they show these three kind of a sexual reproduction ways, of course, how the gametes are being fusing, and isogamous, oogamous and of course the isogamous. Next, the examples are Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Sargassum and Fucus. These are the few examples of the Phaeophyce. Now, what do you have to remember about the Phaeophyce? The very first thing, what kind of structure do they have? They have holdfast, they have frond, they have stipe. The holdfast, which is helping them to attach towards the substratum. Next, they have frond, which is more of a less like a stem like a structure. And next, sorry, the leaf-like structures. And then there is a stipe, which is a leaf-like structure. Holdfast, fronds and stipe. The whole fronds basically looks like the, as you can see, they are more of a like a leaf-like structure. Then there is a stipe, which is a stalk-like structure. What kind of a pigment do they have? They have chlorophyll A, they have chlorophyll C, they have carotenoids, they have xanthin and they have fucoxanthin. Clear? The stored food is laminarian and mannitol. Please, these are the few points which you have to remember. Okay? Talking about, now let's go back and talk about the third class of algae. Yes, third. Yes, the most important also, which is the rhodophyceae. So talking about the rhodophyceae, children, the rhodophyceae have this habitat of completely marine. They are found in the marine habitat. Okay, the chlorophyceae is the only class of the algae which are majorly found in the fresh water. Rest, as you can see, they are mostly marine. Okay, next, the plant body is simple to complex form. They have a simple thallus structure to the complex thallus structure. The photosynthetic pigments, the pigment is major, absolutely major in the rhodophyceae is the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll D, phycoerythrin, which is a red pigment. Yes, this red algae, the rhodophyceae, is commonly known as red algae because they have this pigment called phycoerythrin. Okay, rhodophyceae I was about to say. They have this pigment called phycoerythrin, which is red in color, give the appearance as a red to this algae. Okay, the kind of a food which is stored is the fluoridine starch. The reproduction could be asexual and sexual. The examples of rhodophyceae is Glaciaria, Polysiphonia, Porphyra and Geladium. Yes, children, what you have to remember about the rhodophyceae, that they have chlorophyll pigment A, D, phycoerythrin, which is the red pigment, and the red appearance of the rhodophyceae is because of this pigment. The structure could be a simple thallus structure or could be complex thallus structure. They are majorly found in the marine environment, show asexual as well as the sexual reproduction. Clear? So this is all about the three classes of the algae. Shall we go back? We're going back. And now, since we have done exploring, what we're going to do, we're going to go back and we're going to press on, because we are done with the exploring, or we are done with the explanation of the chlorophyceae. What is left? What is left to be discussed? The next part, the next concept to be discussed is about how they basically reproducing. Yes, but before that, let's have a look about what we have next. Okay, next, the food storage in algae and the photosynthetic pigment in algae, which is of course making you to learn about it. Please, this is for you only, so that you remember everything in detail. It is for you to make things easy to remember. So the food which are majorly stored in the algae is starch, mannitol, lamarine and fluoridine starch, and the pigments are majorly chlorophyll A in the chlorophyll B in the chlorophyceae, chlorophyll A, C, fucoxanthin in the phaeophyceae. Next is the rhodophyceae, chlorophyll A, D and phycoerythrin. So these are the few pigments which are present in the different kind of an algae, and these are the kind of a food stored in the algae. Great. Yes. Moving forward, children, talking about the reproduction. What is the reproduction? Vegetative reproduction, you know, is through the fragmentation. What is the fragmentation process? The individual's body, the organism's body split into different parts, and each and every part will develop into a new individual. So when the algae reproduce vegetatively, what they do the fragmentation, splitting of the parent into more and two individual, and they also can reproduce through the spore formation. Spore formation, you know, the spore will develop into a new plant, and yet the fragmentation, each and every part or the parent part which have broken down into simpler components, not simpler, into components, and each component will develop into a new individual. And the algae which majorly show certain kind of a vegetative reproduction is the Spirogera and Chlamydomonas. Okay, so this type of vegetative reproduction is being shown by the algae through the process of fragmentation. Each and every fragment will develop into a new organism, and through the spore formation also. Okay, moving forward, children, as you can see, children, this is how the spore formation is taking place. This is the parent algae, which is the Spirogera, as you can see, splitting into three parts, and each part developing into a three new individual. Yes or no? Yes, this is how the vegetative reproduction is done in algae. Moving forward, talking about the asexual reproduction. Can you see this? This is a zoospore. Yes, what is the asexual reproduction? The asexual reproduction, when basically occurred in the chlorophyce, Phaeophyce and rhodophyce. In the chlorophyce, there is a flagellated zoospores which is produced in the sporangia, zoosporangia. Zoospores are the spores created, developed, produced by the chlorophyce, and they have flagella present. Flagella, zoo means, you know, whenever the term zoo comes, it means the motile thing is there. Yes, the zoospore is being created by the zoosporangia present in the chlorophyce. Next is the Phaeophyce, which have biflagellated zoospores which are pear-shaped and have two unequal laterally attached flagella. Pear-shaped, two laterally attached flagella, and basically what they have, they are unequal. It means the two flagella which is attached to the pear body of a spore, they are not equal and they are attached in a lateral manner. Two unequal sizes. Biflagellate, two flagella, zoospores, pear-shaped, and two flagella are of unequal sizes. And the last is the rhodophyce, which have non-motile spores. Non-motile spores which are do not having the flagella. They cannot move. Means they need some kind of a what? Medium to be basically what? To germinate, or basically where they germinate, where they basically formed. So basically whatever they, wherever they are, they will germinate because they are not motile, they are not moving. So these are the forms, these are the few types through which the asexual reproduction in algae is done. In chlorophyce, there is zoospores develop into zoosporangia, they are absolutely motile. In the Phaeophyce, there is a pear-shaped spore which having two unequal flagella and of course what? Attached laterally, okay, which is biflagellate also. In the rhodophyce, there is non-motile spores. So this is about the asexual reproduction in algae. I hope this is clear, children. Yes or no? Is this clear? Yes, moving forward, talking more about which is the most important form of the reproduction is the sexual reproduction in algae. Please remember these three terms for your life. It is going to help you a lot, that what do you mean by isogamous, oogamous, and of course the anisogamous. Children, the kind of a reproduction which is taking place by the gametic fusion, and there's three types, there were the three ways where the fusion takes place, in which the kind of a gametes exist is the isogamous. What is the meaning of isogamous? Iso means same. Isogametes means same gametes. Same gametes means which are morphologically similar gametes, and this kind of a gametes are found in Spirogyra. Next, there is anisogamous gametes. Anisogamous are morphologically not similar gametes. Iso means similar, anisogamous means they are not similar, they are not morphologically similar, and examples are chlamydomonas. The third type of gametes are oogamous, which are morphologically and physiologically dissimilar. Means the physiology, the whole physiology of the gametes, the morphology, the external features, all are absolutely dissimilar. Okay, in the isogamous, morphologically similar gametes are present, and isogamous, the morphologically dissimilar gametes are present. But when it comes to oogamous, morphologically, physiologically extremely dissimilar gametes, they fuse. The example of the oogamy or the oogamous is the volvox and fucus. The volvox and fucus generate such type of gametes. So there is a chlamydomonas which is generating what kind of a gametes? Anisogamous. Volvox generating oogamous type of gametes, oogamous. Next is the Spirogyra, which is producing isogamous or isogametes. Clear? This type of a sexual reproduction is taking place in the algae. Please remember all these three terms. You know what do you mean by morphology? The morphology is always the external appearance, the external structure, something which you can see. Physiology is the internal organization. Okay, simple. Moving forward, talking about the algae children, next we have the economic importance. Yes, it has to be covered. How economically we are being benefited from the algae. Children, the algae basically carry out half of the carbon dioxide fixation on earth through the photosynthesis. Since you know that the algae are photosynthetic in nature, they basically carry out the major carbon dioxide fixation. You know, when the concentration of carbon dioxide in the environment will be low, yes, it is going to basically help us also, okay, by reducing the warming, global warming also. Next, they increase the level of dissolved oxygen in the water. Yes, because since they do photosynthetic, they evolve oxygen a lot. So the level of oxygen inside the water increases because of them, and it is easy for the aquatic animals to consume it. Yes, you know the aquatic animals consume the dissolved oxygen only, which is being increased by the algae during the photosynthesis process. Next, Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum are used as a food. Some algae are also edible, so we can also consume them. Okay, out of them the Porphyra, the Sargassum, Gulf weed, the Porphyra laminaria is the oarweed. Next, a brown algae produce a large amount of algin. You know that gelatinous covering? This is how basically, this is the seaweed, this is how it looks like, brown algae. This is the Gulf weed, this is what is the edible part. This is the oarweed which is also edible. This is the green algae. The red algae produces carrageen. This is also being used. Agar-agar, which is one of the commercial products obtained from Gelidium and Glyceralia, used to grow microbes in the preparation of ice creams and jellies. Agar-agar jelly is very famous. Children, we also use agar-agar jelly in the tissue culture in our lab experiments also, because for it is easy to actually grow the microbes. Okay, they help in that. So agar-agar jelly obtained from Gelidium and the Gracilleria. Next, the last is the chlorella, which is the green algae, a unicellular algae which is extremely rich in protein. So whenever somebody is traveling into the space, they cannot eat idli sambar or dosa vosa. They can only eat what? The chlorella, which is extremely rich in protein, because they have to live there for a lot of days. So they basically what? They have consumed proteins which are rich in proteins, which is the chlorella. So it is also called as space food, consumed by the space traveler. So these are the few economic importance of the algae. You know, algae is extremely important also, but sometimes algae do create a havoc. You know, the eutrophication, which is the nutrient enrichment. Okay, what do? They cover the whole aquatic surface, making it impossible for the aquatic life to survive. Yes, because they're consuming all the sunlight for the photosynthesis, making a barrier so that could not reach to the plants present on the lower surface. Okay, so sometimes they also can create a issue. Okay, so these are the few economic importance of the algae. What we have learnt, we have gone through that what are the basic characteristics of algae. We have discussed about the classes of the algae. We have individually discussed about those characteristics of those algae, the reproduction, method of reproduction, and we have also discussed about the economic importance. I hope each and every part is covered. So in the tomorrow's session, what we're going to do? We're going to solve a lot of questions related to algae. This is a practice session. So please, what you have to do, just download the Embibe app, sign up through your email ID or your phone number, register yourself for the class. So you will be able to solve the question directly. Okay, I know on the YouTube it's not possible, but from the Embibe app, if you just log in and register yourself, if you join the class through Embibe app, it will be easier for you to attempt question and see everything in the sequential manner. Yes. Moving forward for the today's session, next what we have a question for you. So children, connect the main bubble with the respective bubble. Any questions, anything which you want me to repeat children, anything which is not clear to you and you want me to repeat? Yes? Any part which is not simple, so easy? Red algae, green algae, blue algae. Who is producing the Cara-green? Yes children? Who is producing the Cara-green? Tomorrow we are going to have this practice session. Children, please do join us for the practice session. Attempt the question. Know how much you have learnt or not. Okay? Yes? The practice session is for you only so that you will be able to grasp everything what we have taught today. So what would be the correct answer children? Please quickly answer. The red algae will produce the Cara-green, which has an extreme importance as an extreme economic importance. Okay? Yes, the next question related to algae is food stored in the form of fluorine starch, among which is a characteristic of that. Fluorine starch is a form of food existing in which algae? Phaeophyceae, Chlorophyceae, Rhodophyceae. Yes? Fluorine starch is a kind of a food stored in which kind of an algae? Yes? Come on children, quickly answer. Just now we have discussed this. Yes? Children, it is a feature of the Rhodophyceae. Yes? Rhodophyceae, the food is stored in the form of fluorine starch. Next question, which among them is a red algae? Very simple. This has to be very simple question. Yes? Which among them is a red algae? Which among them is a red algae? Hi Utkarsh, the class is about to end. You are late for the class. Children, Gelidium is a red algae, okay, which possess the color red because of the phycoerythrin. Okay, the next question. Chlorophyll A and the chlorophyll D and phycoerythrin pigment are found in which class of the algae? See, which class of the algae is basically possessing this three kind of a pigment? Okay, come on, quickly answer. Which kind of an algae is possessing which kind of a pigment? Cyanophyceae, Basidiophyceae, Rhodophyceae, Chlorophyceae. Yes, Rhodophyceae. Again, all the pigments are present in the Rhodophyceae, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and of course the phycoerythrin. Yes. Next question. The algal bloom impart a distinct color to the water due to why? How the algal bloom is imparting green color? How the algal bloom is imparting the blue color? The reason why there is an algal bloom and how they are imparting color. The pigmentation, excretion of colored substances, formation of colored chemicals, and absorption of sunlight by algal cell wall. Yes, quickly answer. The algal bloom, you know, which causes the eutrophication also, because the algal bloom they impart a distinct color water due to the presence of their pigmentation. Due to the presence of pigmentation, the green colors are being imparted because of the pigmentation present in that particular algae. Clear? This becomes to the end of our lecture children. In today we have discussed about the algae, we have discussed about the classes of the algae, the basic characteristics of the algae. We have discussed about the chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae, Rhodophyceae, and of course we have also discussed about the method of reproduction in the algae, be it vegetative, be it asexual, be it sexual reproduction, and we have also seen the economic importance of the algae. Tomorrow we are going to have the practice session related to algae. Children, do not miss that class, and please go through your NCERT once coming for the practice session, and also you can go through this session also whenever you want. Clear? Next, children, I would like to introduce you, before you go, the next session when I'm going to teach you, I'm going to teach you just like animals have amphibians, the plants also have amphibians. Yes, what kind of amphibians? The next session would be about the bryophytes. We're going to discuss about the bryophytes characteristics, and we're going to discuss about the classes present in the bryophytes. So the next question, these are the two homework questions, children. The red color of algae is due to, and of course, the algin is obtained from which particular algae. Yes. And at last, children, what we have the Embibe app. Yes, you can log in through phone number or the email ID. What you have to do, you have to just select your school examination, your CBSE, your 11th exam CBSE and respective language. Click the done and you will land on this page. Children, click on the home button, go for the Embibe live classes, and you will find all the respective classes scheduled over here. And if you have missed any session, it will be always present on the Embibe app. You can always learn, you can always practice and test, and you can always achieve. See whatever you have achieved. Yes, there is another app which is absolutely amazing, which is the Embibe Lens app. What you have to do, just scan through the text. It will highlight all the words and give you everything in 3D. We'll meet again at the same timing tomorrow to practice questions related to algae. Please revise it from your NCERT. We'll solve as many as questions possible. Until then, please take care. Keep imbibing. Bye-bye.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.